What's up, guys? This is Kyurem from the Trinity of Lift, and today I bring all you guys a pretty fun deck profile in my Chaos Dragon deck. This deck has a very special place in my heart because this is the deck that actually got me back into Yu-Gi-Oh! A little backstory for you guys. I did quit Yu-Gi-Oh! For quite some time before. I quit right about the time when Synchros are introduced. The Duelist Genesis, I think, was the set that I did quit. And this past year, I should say, the January of 2014, I actually came back into the game because some of my friends got me back into it. And the deck that they helped me build when I first got back into the game was the Chaos Dragon deck. They introduced me to that structure deck, the Dragon's Collide structure deck, I think it's called. You know, the one with where Lightpulsar does come in as the main card. And I really liked the theme for getting back into Yu-Gi-Oh! And it was actually very fun. So I kept the deck ever since I did come back to the game. And over time, I've been improving it and working on it and always trying to make it a little bit better every format after every format. So I decided to give you guys a list of what I currently have right now. And let's get right into it. So first up for the Chaos Dragons, we do play 3 Lightpulsar Dragon. This guy is phenomenal. He's your main dragon that you want in either your grave, your hand, anywhere really. He really helps you get your plays off, no matter where he might be. Firstly, if you guys don't know, he can special summon himself like any of the main Chaos monsters in the deck by banishing a Light and Dark monster from your grave. But also what Lightpulsar does is he's able to special summon himself from the grave also by pitching a Dark and a Light monster from your hand to the grave. So there's many ways that Lightpulsar can summon himself, and he does a lot of things for the deck like Fuel the Grave or just summon himself and give yourself a big beater. Also, another thing is that he sort of can float too. Whenever he's sent from the field to the grave, you can special summon another level 5 or higher Dark Dragon from your grave. So, Lightpulsar also helps kind of keep your board presence. And, frankly, you need to run him at 3. He's one of your main guys again, like I said. And yeah, 3 Lightpulsar. Next up, to back Lightpulsar up, we do play 2 Dark Flare Dragon. Dark Flare is mainly there just for your Dark Dragon fodder for Lightpulsar, so you can keep that board presence. But Dark Flare also helps alleviate. Sometimes you might draw into really dead hands, because Chaos Dragons is known to run a lot of dead monsters if their summoning conditions are not met. So Dark Flare is kind of our way to help alleviate our slower hands, fuel our grave, as well as maybe banish a significant monster from our opponent's grave, like a Dante, or an El Shadow Construct / Nephilim, what I like to call it, and whatnot. So yeah, 2 Dark Flare. Next up for the Chaos Dragons, we do play 2 Black Dragon and 2 White Dragon. These guys are primarily here for our Synchro fodder or our overlaying fodder. And they do very good because they help you manipulate your deck manipulate your graveyard very precision-like, I should say, because since they have to banish only one of the opposite attribute, it really helps you, how should I say, control your grave with exactly how much lights or darks you might need at any given time, as well as they float to each other. So having that constant advantage is very helpful, considering that Chaos Dragons can sometimes really make you go neg all the time, because sometimes how much cards you might have to commit to one certain card. But that's why you run these guys, to help alleviate that kind of problem. So yeah. Next up, to round out our primary Chaos Dragon monsters, we do play the 1 Eclipse, the 1 Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon, and the 1 Dark Armed. Eclipse, I only run 1 because we only do have these 2 targets of Red Eyes and Dark Armed. And, well, Red Eyes in any standard Dragon deck is always a must, in my opinion. And Dark Arm we have here because we do run quite a few Darks, and we have enough graveyard manipulation to run it. Next up, we do play a Lightsworn engine in this deck to help fuel our graveyard in the form of 2 Raiden and 2 Lila. Raiden is here for our level 4 tuning, as well as to help us fuel our grave with his activation effect. And Lila is here for our back row removal. So that's it for our Lightsworn engine. Next up, we do play a very interesting engine in the sense that it's 3 Tour Guide of the Underworld, 2 Skarm, Melibranch of the Burning Abyss, 2 Graph, Melibranch of the Burning Abyss, and finally the 1 Seer. I do actually love playing this mini Burning Abyss engine, believe it or not. I'm actually I always have a smile on my face whenever I can start going off sort of like a Burning Abyss player would, but then summon things like Dark Armed or Light Pulsar, and they kind of confuse my opponent, because if I open Turgide and they see a graph, they'll think, oh, this must be Burning Abyss. But when they see the punching potential and the punching power of Chaos Dragons in the mix, they start like not knowing what they might have to do to respond or whatnot, and then their whole mentality of this is a Burning Abyss deck goes out the window. Frankly, the reason why I chose a Burning Abyss engine is because this helps us fuel our grave for dark monsters, so we can get our Dark Armed out easier. As well as all the Burning Abyss monsters have a graveyard effect, so if they do get milled by our Lightsworn engine, then they can get their own effects and help keep our board presence either by getting a Scarm effect or getting a Graph effect to get another Scarm or whatnot. And also what this engine does for the deck is it really helps it get a relevant normal summon every turn. Frankly, compared to a lot of the things that require special summoning conditions like to banish a card or whatnot in our deck, it's not that easy to always come by normal summonable monsters, because we do run a lot of high level chaos monsters. So having the Burning Abyss engine to have either easy access to a tour guide play or having access to search a tour guide to give us another relevant normal summon helps with the consistency of the deck, and also helps so you don't get OTK'd or whatnot, and that you always do have that board presence. Next up, to continue in the theme of fueling our grave, we do play 2 Card Trooper. Fairly standard in my opinion for a Chaos Dragon deck. You want to fuel your grave as soon as possible. So having the Card Trooper to just instantly mill 3 helps really jumpstart your deck when it needs to. Also, another benefit too is it's a level 3. So if for whatever reason you might have another Tour Guide on field, you can always use this for a rank 3 play. Next up, we have some more tuners in this deck in the form of Plague Spreader Zombie. This guy is very good and synergizes very well with the deck, because if you mill him, you can activate Plague Spreader to stack a card from your hand on top of your deck to special summon him, and that gives you a fairly easy access level 2 tuner. Another relevant thing that Plague Spreader does for the deck is it's a dark tuner, so it does give us access to things like Beals of the Diabolic Dragons, as well as Void Ogre Dragon. So yes, 2 Plague Spreader Zombie. Next up, we run a rather odd, I should say, fire engine, in the sense that it's 2 Flamvell Guards and 1 a Blaster. Frankly, the Flamvell Guards are in here for level 1 tuning access, and as well is this kind of a funny combo card for me anyway. I kind of teched it in because I figured that you can use Flamvell Guard as one of the few easy access dragon tuners around, actually, because it was either this or I believe one of the Dragoonity tuners. And I chose Flamvell Guard over any of the other options, primarily because it is a fire, so it does give us Blaster access, as well as it's a level 1 tuner that can be summoned by Red Eyes. So it gives us easier access to any of our synchro plays, as well as it gives us access to Star Eater. And Blaster's here because we do run a lot of dragons. This is a Chaos Dragon deck. And Blaster is there for any time when we need instant damage, or if we ever decide to go for our rank 7 play. So yes, there we go. That's our mini fire engine. Next up, we do run the 1 Gores. I wish I could run 2, but sadly I just do not have enough room in the main deck to run 2. Gores is here primarily because if you do draw into a dead hand, it's better to have the chance to have a Gores also in that hand to help prevent OTKs rather than not. So I do have the 1 Gores in here to help the longevity if I do end up having a slow hand where I do not have anything like a Dark Flare access or anything to try and help me get out of it. So having the 1 Gores to protect me, and then again save me from OTKs, as well as the giving us our rank 7 access, is always nice. Finally, to round up the monsters, since this is a Chaos deck, we do run the 1 BLS and the 2 Chaos Sorcerer. They're great. They're the old Chaos monsters, I should say, from all the way back from IOC, long time ago. And frankly, any Chaos deck should run these big Chaos monsters like BLS and Chaos Sorcerer. So yeah, that wraps up the monsters. It's quite a few. It's about 35 monsters. Now, so for the spells, since we only run a couple, we run 2 Dark Hole. The reason why you can run Dark Hole is because, again, like I've been saying many times, you want to fuel your grave as soon as possible and as quickly as possible. So having the Dark Hole isn't really detrimental to the deck, because you can afford, I should say, to nuke your own board so that you can fuel your grave with whatever you might have on field, and it helps advance your play because although you might be getting rid of your own monsters as well as your opponents, you are clearing your opponent's board, and you might be able to fuel your grave just enough to keep going with your special summoning plays until you really can go off. So that's why we have the 2 Dark Hole. Next up, we play the 1 Dragon Shrine. Because we run Flamveil Guard, and you can run 1 Dragon Shrine. Since, we only have 2 Flamveil Guard, I feel that only 1 is necessary. And if we draw into it, that's great, because then we can start immediately fueling our grave with 1 Flamveil, and then probably either an Eclipse or a Lightpulsar, depending on what you might need. Or, if worse comes to worse, and for whatever reason you might not have access to Flamveil to get dumped from the deck, you can always just dump any other dragon that you might need. And in my opinion, dumping any of the dragons from your deck is never bad, because most of them can do something in your grave, either by fueling your other monsters by being either a light or a dark, or it can be something like a Lightpulsar where you can start doing your combo plays and whatnot. So yes, 1 Dragon Shrine. Next up, we run 1 Charge of the Light Brigade. It's easy access milling in my opinion, and then it even gets us even more milling when we search our Lightsworn monsters. So it helps really jumpstart our deck. And having this first turn and being able to mill 3, search a Radiant, and then mill 2 more should make almost any Chaos monster you might have in hand very much live. Now finally, for the last card in our main deck, we do run the 1 Soul Charge. Soul Charge is ridiculous in this deck since you do mill so much and there is so much monsters you'll constantly be sending to the grave. Having the Soul Charge to make just ridiculous boards is never a bad thing. I've had times when I've been able to make boards consisting of something ridiculous like a Dark Arm, a Red Eyes Darkness Metal, 2 Light Pulsars, and a BLS just with this 1 card. So having the Soul Charge in here is never a bad thing. So that's it for the main deck. On to the extra deck. We run 1 Beals of the Diabolic Dragons and 1 Void Ogre Dragon. These 2 are our main level 8s that we will go into with our Plague Spreader Zombie. And since Plague Spreader does give us access to these 2 phenomenal synchros, I say that running these 2 is always a great thing. Also, another thing to note is that both of these guys can be also special summoned by Lightpulsar's effect. So if for some reason they end up in the grave somehow, Lightpulsar's always there to bring them right back. Next up, we run 1 Scrap Dragon for simple removal, as well as to fuel our own grave, like I've been saying many times. We play the 1 Spark Dragon when we have to play a little bit defensively so we can maybe stall for a few turns or whatnot. We have the 1 Black Rose Dragon for whenever we might have to clear the board. We have the 1 Goyo Guardian because stealing our opponent's monsters are always helpful. We have the 1 Armades because it's very helpful in the Shadow matchup and whatnot. So having an Armades to have someone else to all those matchups is always good. And then finally, for our last bigger synchros, we have the 1 Star Eater because we can make this off of things like Flamveil Guard and the Red Eyes, or other unorthodox methods, I should say. There's many ways you can make these bigger synchros with multiple monsters in the deck, and it's way too much to name. But trust me, you can make this fairly consistently. As well as we do run the 1 Leo for the kind of like the same reason we run Star Eater. We can make these guys fairly easily with the various tuners and monsters of various levels that we have in the deck. So having access to both Leo and Star Eater is a phenomenal thing to do. And there are times when you can actually establish a board of both Leo and Star Eater, and your opponent will really have a hard time getting around it. So that's it for the synchros. For the XYZs, we start off with 2 number 17s. Believe me when I say these guys should be Dante. If I had 2 Dante, these would immediately come out for those Dante. But because I don't have any justification to shell out $140 or so for 2 Dante, I have the Leviathans as sort of fill-ins, and they work just fine. They're both dragons, so they can be used for things like Blaster or banishing to summon Red Eyes or whatnot. So they're semi-useful, but they don't provide as much of a utility as Dante, so frankly these should be 2 Dante, because Dante is a card trooper in himself. He floats to the other Burning Abyss monsters, and he really helps you keep your presence as well as it keeps fueling your grave. So that's basically everything you need to do in a Chaos Dragon deck. So frankly, yeah, if you have 2 Dante, these would be 2 Dante. But if you don't, Leviathan is just fine. Having a free 2.5k beater, or even a 3k beater if it lasts that long, helps you really poke for that damage and really helps you establish a big board. Next up, we run the one Queen Dragon Jin. Because this is a dragon deck, we can run Queen Dragon Jin because it helps us constantly have our Chaos Dragons on board. I believe she can summon anything. Yeah, she can summon any level 5 or higher dragon from our grave. And it helps us go into our bigger board plays or helps us float whatever bigger dragons we might have into other dragons. Because like I said before, Lightpulsar is a very good card and it can float into your bigger dragons like Red Eyes, Beals, or Void Ogre. So having Queen Dragon Jin summon a Lightpulsar and then have Lightpulsar float into something else that Queen Dragon Jin cannot originally summon is always helpful, as it helps you establish that gigantic board that we're always striving for. Next up, we have some more rank 4s in the form of Castel, because Castel is a great card and a staple at this point. We have the one E-Knight, because nuking the board is never a bad thing, like I've said, as it can always fuel our grave and whatnot. Also, E-Knight is a light, so if he ever gets destroyed himself for whatever reason, he can also help out by summoning our bigger Chaos monsters. And then finally, to round off our last extra deck monster, we do have the one Mecha Phantom Beast Dracosack, which we can make with either Blaster Gores or Dark Armed whenever we have to. So that's it for my Chaos Dragon deck profile, guys. Please let me know what you guys think of this list down in the comment section below. And as always, guys, this is Kyurem from the Trinity of Lift, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.